Why did I start teaching English? Let's talk about it. So actually, recently someone asked me, why did you start teaching English? And I thought, that's a good question. Let's dive into this a little bit. And so many years ago, when I was quite young, maybe younger than 4 or 3, I got interested in other languages, very interested. But in my hometown, which is quite rural, we didn't have any resources for this kind of thing. So instead, I devoted myself to learning how to read and teach myself the ABCs and things like that. Because I didn't have a lot of materials as a kid, we had very few books. I would imitate other people reading and memorize the book before I could read. And then I would retell the story as if I knew how to read. And so my family got how did you learn how to read? But I just memorized everything. And over time, I taught myself the ABCs and the sounds. And I would draw in the dirt outside and make the words. And I taught myself how to spell almost everything at that level, before I went to kindergarten. And in fact, when I went to kindergarten, my expectation was that we were going to learn to read books and do math and learn science. But instead, we learned mostly ABCs and how to draw pictures. And I don't have many memories of kindergarten because I guess I was bored. So it was around that time that I met other people from different countries that could speak other languages. And I was very fascinated. So when I was quite young, I really, really wanted them to teach me how to speak Vietnamese or Chinese or whatever other language was there. But we're all kids and they think it's normal, or maybe they feel embarrassed about their language, so they wouldn't teach me. And that's fine. I understand, of course, but at the time I just felt a little sad. I remember when I was quite young, I asked for a Spanish dictionary for a present, and it was just some cheap, maybe $3 Spanish dictionary, but we didn't have a lot of money, and so I just was okay, whatever. And I got it for my birthday, I think, and I used to read it from front to back. I would just use it so much, it fell apart. I was obsessed with it. I kept it even into middle school, even though I had it from maybe 2nd grade. I had it in middle school, and I remember using it up until I started Spanish in high school. But my fascination with language was much, much earlier than that. I remember when I was quite young, my father had a game called Dungeons and Dragons, and he played it when he was younger. And the books have some other language stuff in it, and it was kind of fantasy language. And I was super fascinated by that. I used to draw the characters and draw the language out and make up my own rules to it. And in fact, over time, I also made up my own script and my own letters and my own ciphers and other types of code and kind of language stuff. But it never went too invariably far because I always thought I should go back to a real language and try to learn that first. But the resources just weren't there. We had one bookstore in a nearby city, and that bookstore sometimes had language stuff, but I didn't have money to get anything. And when I did eventually get stuff, I tried to learn as best as I can, but it was a book with no CD, no listening. And our school wasn't very good at teaching grammar. So even though we had 6 years of grammar in my countryside school, most students, 2 years after we stopped taking it, had no idea what an adjective was or how a gerund worked. So it was very tough to find a good resource. But for a similar reason, I became more fascinated because of this. The languages were so interesting. They were kind of a magical spell that people used all over the world. They could make whole books, poems, whole different societies were based off of language. So that just kept me fascinated. I remember one time there was a movie called, what is it called? Atlantis. There's a Disney movie, I think it's Disney, called Atlantis, and they had a foreign language in it. And this language was made up for the movie. And I found that extremely fascinating. And I learned through a documentary that the guy who created the language in Atlantis also created the language in Star Trek, the Klingon language. So they hired him to help make it. I believe that's correct. And that made me go to Klingon, which was also extremely interesting. Because in that language, there are like a set of rules that all languages on Earth follow. And there's like 23, I believe. And these 23 rules are intentionally set up so that you can say this language, even though it's vastly different than English, it still follows this set pattern, this set rule. And Klingon does every one of them the opposite. It broke every rule on purpose because it was a foreign alien language. So that was also highly fascinating, though I never went too far with Klingon because it was not something I can use in the real world. So when I got to high school and got access to an actual language class, I became obsessed. I did really well in Spanish class. I took all the levels of Spanish I could, and that was the only language available. And our teacher was relegated to a kind of trailer in the woods near our school. It wasn't it was kind of a classroom, and the air conditioning was okay. Sometimes it wasn't good. And it was basically a very cheap trailer, sort of, what do you want to call it? Like a shed that he was relegated to. And also he was kind of mistreated as a teacher, and most of the students treated him poorly. And most of the students didn't care about foreign language whatsoever. So it was mostly a few people that really cared about trying to learn. And some of his methods of learning, I picked up not only the Spanish, but also his teaching method. And I kept some of it for myself. So as I moved into college, I remember using that in my education classes. And once I went to college, then I got access to more language opportunities. So I immediately went into helping the foreigners that came to our school. There was a program that I'm forgetting the name of for some reason, but this program was for foreigners that are going to our school to practice English. And I became a tutor there because it was, number one, I wanted to help people and I like teaching. And it was fascinating to learn about their language and their culture by them telling me through English. And it also showed me the limitations of English because there was things they couldn't communicate properly. And even the translation into English, when we used some computer translation, didn't capture what they wanted to express. So that was another mystery. There's words and meanings and ideas that literally don't work in the framework of English. So that's another fascinating thing. So what happened was I took every language class that was available at the school. They had Japanese and French, German, and Spanish, and Japanese, French, and Chinese. And I took them all. I didn't take them all to the end because I didn't have enough time. And my major wasn't foreign language, my major was linguistics. So I only was required to have a certain amount of language, but I took way more than that. And it was very, very developing. It helped me develop a lot. And I got to learn different language learning strategies. I found that my German and my Chinese teachers were the best. And I had to make a decision which language I wanted to stick with. And I really was quite good in the Chinese class. But German was taught by a really good teacher, and it felt challenging. And I'll be honest, I felt like if I went to China, I couldn't ever feel like I was at home. But I felt like if I went to Germany, people maybe would accept me. That's a dumb idea, but I was very young, so I must have been 19 or something, I don't know. So I made the decision to go with German, which I don't regret, but I do kind of wish I doubled with Chinese as well. But that's okay. Back to the point. The German teacher helped me understand how to teach language even better. So I was fascinated by his style, and it worked on me. Like, I don't know, something happened, and I can just learn it. Even though it was quite difficult for me, I could just learn. So I dissected his method, and I kind of kept that, and I still use parts of it, especially when I do one-on-one teaching. And honestly, the way that he taught German, I try to emulate in English, though it doesn't work quite well because the way that he went about it was specific to the German language, but still very, very helpful in my teaching development. When I did education classes, I imitated his style and my Spanish teacher's style, and a little bit of my Chinese teacher's style. She was quite good, but I only had her for a short time. So what happened was I had a plan to go to Germany, and I wanted to go to Germany and teach English, or go to Germany and do some job that involved speaking German and English that was required, like some translation job or something. And it was a little bit tough. It's hard to find something that I can do there. However, there was some people that came to my school. One of them was part of the JET program, I think is the name. It's the Japanese English Teacher Program. Yeah, JET, that's right. And they spoke about going to Japan and all of this stuff. And the way they talked about it seemed a little too good to be true. Some of it seemed a little suspicious. Like he talked about having a 2-story house to himself, and he didn't have to work if he didn't want to, and all this stuff. And I felt, okay, I want to look into this more. So I looked into the JET program because I forgot to mention, when I was in high school, I used to play a game online that was primarily a Japanese player game. And I played it a lot, and there was lots of Japanese people, maybe half or more were Japanese, and so I had to speak Japanese sometimes, and learn to type in Japanese and learn kanji and stuff, which I really liked it, and I liked Japanese media at the time relatively well, so it was an easy thing for me to pick up. So going to the JET program made sense, and I highly considered it, but something felt off, and I just didn't want to go. And there was another woman that came who was a graduate of our school, and she talked to us about going for a year to Korea. And she lived in Seoul. I can't remember where. It's been a long time ago. But she talked about it and how it was so nice and cool and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, this is something I have no knowledge about at all. This could be very fascinating. So over a short period of time, me and my friend considered going to Korea. We talked about it, and we got some resources. Because we got the resources first from this woman, it felt more real, and also it felt like we can go there for a little bit of time, get some teaching experience, and then we can go to whatever country we want, and we'll be much more hireable, People will want to hire us. So we studied Hangul, which was very easy to pick up, which was a relief compared to like katakana and hiragana and Chinese characters. And we decided to go, and we got an agency to come to Korea. And I can tell the story about coming to Korea in another video, but basically what happened was as a summary, when I was young, I was fascinated by language, and I wanted to learn more about English and learn more about other languages. And as I got older, I became more and more fascinated by it. And when I finally came to Korea, I fell in love with teaching, and I really like being a teacher and helping anyone of any age. It's just so nice to connect with people using language and help them communicate their ideas better and better in a language they want to learn. But I'll leave it there. If you're interested in the me coming to Korea story, please let me know. Any other questions you have, also please leave them down below. I know this video is a little bit longer today. If you like that, story time with Corey is possible. I like to talk, and I like to tell stories. The speed today was a little bit faster. Tell me what you think. I want to help you guys improve your listening skills. And yeah, so if you like it, please leave a like and hit subscribe if you want to see some more. It really helps me out. Lets me know what you guys want in the future. And I will see you in the next video. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.